Hi, I'm Tony Sands, and I feel ringish to be a Jayhawk, meaning I feel delighted and special to have this honor of being a Jayhawk.
Hanni and the Hawks is presented by Jefferson's, home of the best wings in town. Always fresh, never frozen. I'll tell you what, here's a pro tip on getting your wings from Jefferson's. Get them double dipped. They've got 21 different signature sauces or dry rubs. So dip them the first time, fry them up, and then come back for that second dipping. They recommend the lemon pepper to finish it off. But 21 different sauces or rubs. It's the double dip delivery of Jefferson's. Wings not your thing. They also hand patty all of their burgers with certified Angus beef. They do a great job with their chicken tenders too. My personal favorite, the crinkle cut fries. Whether you're going there on a game day to check out the Jayhawks or just a family meal out, Jefferson's, a great place to be with 2 Lawrence locations. Proud presenting sponsor of Hanni and the Hawks. What's up, everybody? It's Brian Hanni with Hanni and the Hawks right here on Kansas Nation. Filmed this week from inside our gorgeous new studios, 916 Massachusetts Street. And as you just heard, a guy who feels Ring of Honor proud to be a Kansas Jayhawk. We got the man, the myth, the legend, Tony Sands in studio today. Tony, great to see you, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. Great to be back in Lawrence, and you in Lawrence because I'm coming from South Florida, and when you look at the news and they say, "Listen, we have a freeze possibly today," okay, and you step out of the hotel, you know you're back in.
You know you're back in Lawrence and in the Midwest. I hear you.
Yes.
I recognize a lot of our fans tuning in or listening on iTunes or Spotify. They can't see us right now, but some people are watching on YouTube or on kansasnation.com, and they can see this proud Kansas football Ring of Honor jacket.
Yes.
So when he says, I am Ring of Honor to be a Jayhawk,
Yes, I am.
you've been rocking that thing for the last
Yes.
2+ years. I know it meant a ton to you when you came back 2 years ago to finally go up.
Yes.
And I know it meant a lot in particular that of the 12 names up there that were still living,
correct,
7 were there on that day to be with you. 2 years later, I just love the way you wear the jacket, you wear the ring, you proudly represent Kansas. Speak to what that's meant to you.
Well, a lot went into it. When I was, people used to always ask me, man, when are they going to ever put you in? And I would always tell them, I say, listen, when the right time is right, I'll go in. I'm not going to put no pressure on no one to force me in, but when the time is right, I'll go in. And this is what I was telling people once I went in. I said, I went in as the 24th inductee, and I wore the number 24.
How about that?
You couldn't be no more perfect than that, because I guarantee you there's not another Hall of Fame Ring of Honor guy around the country that can say that they went in on their number that they played with.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And as I referenced, half of that number had passed on.
Yes.
But of the 12 that were still living, the fact that 7 showed up for you on that day meant a lot, because team means a lot to you.
Correct.
One of the things you said in your induction speeches is, this isn't just Tony Sands going up here.
Correct.
This is my teammates. Tell me why you said that.
Because when I came in in 88, Kansas was not looked upon as a football program. It was not looked upon, as a matter of fact, it was only 102 Division I schools. We were 101 and Kansas State was 102. And I had a dream that we will not be looked at as the bottom of Division I football. And the guys that I came in with was going to be able to, if you was diehard, you were going to make that happen. When I leave out, I didn't want to leave out the way I came in. I came in as a loser, but I didn't want to leave out as a loser. And I was going to make sure that everything that I had each and every day that I went out there on the practice field and on the game field, that I gave everything, because once I leave here, I want to be known as one of the greatest guys to come through. That was my motivation each and every day. And to see that 7 guys return back shows what you meant to this program and what you meant to those guys when they heard about what went into building Kansas back to dominance in the Big 12, the Big 8, and the nation.
Well, you not only went out a winner, you went out a legend, a record holder, the Big 8 Offensive Player of the Year. I was talking to somebody earlier this week when we found out you were going to come in studio, and I said, man, you don't realize, like, Nick Reed was Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes.
We've had some preseason guys like
Yes.
Dorrance Armstrong and Jalen Daniels, but in the modern era, to win a Conference Player of the Year honor, that just doesn't happen very often at Kansas, and it is to be celebrated when it does. So I didn't mean to talk about all
Oh,
about the
no, I'm
Ring of
good.
Honor
I'm
stuff
good.
up front because we're going to get to what earns you that Ring of
Yes.
Honor
Yes.
place over the course of the next 30 minutes. But I think we needed to set the scene with the jacket and everything
Yes.
because I have the good privilege of being able to introduce the guys that go up in the rafters at Allen Fieldhouse, and we're all witnesses to what happens in the Ring of Honor. And it's a big day when it happens for everybody. But I don't know that I've seen a guy embrace it as much as you have, because while you stayed connected to your alma mater for the previous 25, 30 years in between the end of your career and when you went up, I almost feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of rejuvenated the interaction with the fan base for you because now
Yes,
you're
it did.
so present on social
Yes.
media and,
Yes.
and X and Twitter and all that. And I think the younger generation that
Yes.
maybe didn't know your story and then heard about it in 2023, suddenly you're engaging with these folks like, oh my gosh, that's Tony Sands. That's Mr.
Yes.
396. And so I say that to say, I think you've used that platform of
Yes.
Hall of Fame
Yes.
status to reconnect with the university as well as anybody I've been around.
People don't realize, man, when I came here, what this university meant to me. But not only that, when I was called uh, and it was announced that I'll be going in, my family went through something. My wife and kids was with me here in Kansas. My wife took sick in May. It was after we got, and she was proud because that was something she wanted to see. And my wife took sick and she was in a coma for 6 months,
My goodness.
not knowing if she was going to make it. And I always said, I said, I'm going in October. But one of the things I wanted my wife to stand beside me. So as you're thinking, you're going through that, the doctor's telling you things that your wife might not make it, prepare your children, man, it's a lot goes through you. And when my wife released from the hospital and everything went to going smooth and to walk out on that field with my whole family. I had a, as they say, I had an entourage of family that came up, man. And it was so crazy because they was wondering, with the television time and everything that's got to go, is Sam's going to be able to get everybody off the field in time? And I told him, I say, listen, as I stated, when I won this with the family of people,
Yeah.
my football family, my family, my wife, my kids, my mom, my brothers, my sisters, everybody. We won this together.
Yep.
And man, and I was so ecstatic, man, to make sure that my wife was able to see this also, to see me go in because it was something that, she saw me struggle. She was there with me through thick and thin, through the ups and downs here at the University of Kansas, and she kept me focused. So to just be able to wear this, and some people say you wear it, and I wear it proud because this is not something that came one day.
Right.
So I don't want to never say that I'm just going to wear it one day. Anytime I'm out, I'm doing speaking engagements,
Yeah.
I get asked to bring it because I tell them this means something to me, and it means more than just a one-day event.
Yeah.
This is a lifelong journey
I
of
love it.
getting to this event. To
So
get
cool.
to this here, it's special, man. People don't realize it's a lot go into that go
Oh,
behind
yeah.
the scenes that people don't see. I wear it every time, and I wear it proud because I wear KU proud on my shoulders.
So well said. And you mentioned your wife was there to
Yes.
see everything you poured into your career. Did you meet her at KU or was that back home in
I met
Florida?
her back home. She was my high
Okay.
school sweetheart,
Okay.
and she moved up here. Once I got established, we had one. I had my one son, Maxie, when I was on my way here.
Gotcha.
That took me through a world spin because you're saying to yourself, my son was born on August 3rd, and I had to report August 4th.
Wow.
And as I'm getting on the plane, I'm saying to myself, wow, I'm leaving my kid behind. But I knew if I go here and get established,
Yeah.
I can bless him later on in life
Absolutely.
and put him on the path. So it was a journey that went without notice. I just loved it. Once I got here, I said to myself, man, I want to be up in those rafters one I used to look at Gale Sayers and John Riggins. I looked up in those rafters every time that we practiced in that stadium.
Did you?
And every time that we played in there. And I had a dream that I want my name to be up there. Why? Not only does it mean that you're in the ring, but it means here at the University of Kansas and throughout the world that my legacy will live on beyond me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So well said. Loving everything we're getting from Tony Sands today. And it's kind of fitting that now when the younger generation sees you, they always see you rocking that Hall of Fame coat, and you're synonymous with the Hall of Fame Ring of Honor jacket, because during your playing days, you had the nickname Tuxedo Tony Sands.
Correct.
And folks associated you with that. Real quickly, for the young folks that don't understand the backstory, how did you get such a cool signature nickname? And
it was crazy, because I came from humble beginnings. My family, we didn't have a lot of money at all. You got to understand, we grew up in a household with like 16. I had 16 uncles and aunties.
Wow.
My uncle is Michael Irvin, so we all came from the same home. We was in the same place. So when I came to the University of Kansas, and Coach Mason, who recruited me at that time and was his first class, he said, well, we got to have suits. You got to have suits. And back then, you got to understand now, universities couldn't pay for suits for us.
It's a different world today.
Yes.
NIL, revenue share, endorsements.
I look back and I was looking at how they was getting fitted for their jackets to wear on game day and things like that. Well, we couldn't have that back in our day. The university could not pay for that at all. And my family couldn't afford it. So my mom went to the thrift store and bought pieces of something. And literally, I pieced together something. It wasn't a tuxedo. It was just what we could afford at the time. And I pieced it together, and one reporter went and said it looked like a tuxedo.
Did you have a bow tie?
I had a bow tie.
Okay. That was probably the tip off.
And that kicked it off. And from there, it just went. And then as it started going, one of my aunts that worked for the Broward Sheriff's Department, Jan Carter, she went and spent money on me a tuxedo and sent it. And I wore that tuxedo every game.
That's amazing.
I had to make sure it was washed on Thursday. My wife made sure it was washed. And every game from there, I wore that tuxedo, and I wore it proud because I wanted a flashy nickname.
Sure.
Coming from South Florida, my uncle Michael Irvin, he had the nickname the Playmaker.
Yeah.
So I wanted my own nickname. And once that reporter said Tuxedo Tony, I said, okay, I'm gonna run with that. I'm running with it. That's who I am. Now I'm gonna run with that.
And it was such a great nickname. It had alliteration, Tuxedo Tony. It was uniquely yours.
Yes.
Not something that 10 guys have.
Correct.
That is awesome. And I love the story. What was the aunt's name that bought you the tuxedo?
Janet Carter.
Aunt Janet.
Yeah, she was Broward Sheriff. She was a correction officer for the Broward Sheriff Department. And she said, I'm going to send you, I'm going to send you a real tuxedo.
Do you still have that tuxedo?
No, we sent that tuxedo along with the ball to the Hall of Fame.
Okay. I was just going to say, it needs to be in a Hall of Fame somewhere if it's not.
Yes, it went to the Hall of Fame with the ball. When I go to Atlanta, I stop by all the time at the Hall of Fame in Atlanta. When friends and people that I know, they visit the Atlanta Museum of College Hall of Fame, and they'll send me pictures back. Hey man, I just saw your name in the Hall of Fame. And then you when they ask you that question, you be like, okay, how do I respond to this? Do I say, yeah, I know it's there, or do I say, oh, for real? So you get mixed emotions because you never want to feel like you're too high or yet you're never too low. You want to get in the mirror, but just going in there and showing my grandchildren, when I come back here. To let my grandchildren see it, man, it's something special because they know, like I said, that the name will live on.
Absolutely. The ball that's in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Most of you know that's the ball from the Missouri game, his final game at Kansas Memorial Stadium back then, now the new booth. But on that day, 58 carries, 396 yards. He took down Marshall Faulk's single-game rushing record, set also an NCAA record for carries in a game. You and Chip Hillary set the combined running back and quarterback rushing record day, or two players in the same game rushing record day. All of those things were accomplished with that ball that resides in Atlanta, Georgia, at the College Football Hall of Fame, and we will talk about that game next. I think this is officially our 8th episode of Hanni and the Hawks. They've all been football. You are our third Ring of Honor
Oh, wonderful.
inductee, and we're having a blast telling all these great
Yes.
stories of Kansas Jayhawk lore. Part of the goal of this podcast is to not just relive the moments that folks know about,
Right.
but maybe tell some untold stories.
Right.
And so as we inch closer to talking about the legendary Mizzou game with 396 yards from Tony Sands, I referenced a guy that was handed off to you that day, who was one of our previous
Yes.
episodes, by the
Yes.
way, Chip Hillary. And his version of that story, by the way, is that by the time it got to the fourth quarter, the talk on the sideline was, Hillary, you're not running the ball
Yes.
anymore. Just give it to Sands, right?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, when I heard that, right, and it was like, okay, because John Jefferson, he was the receiver coach. And we was not ever at the time during Mace era that we was high on breaking records, that we was going in a game.
Sure.
So Mace wasn't into that. And
Not many coaches are.
yeah, John Jefferson came to me at halftime. I was sitting down because I always would have 2 Snickers in my locker room. I told him at halftime I need 2 Snickers.
Really?
Yeah, I needed 2 Snickers. All the time, every game, I had a ritual.
Was it a superstition thing?
It was just, yeah, I felt I had more energy for the
Okay.
second half if I had my 2 Snickers.
Just imagine if we had NIL back when Tony Sands played. Not only would he have had the best tuxedo in America, but he would have had more Snickers than he could ever eat.
Yeah, I had 2 Snickers, so I was eating. I had just tore up one, and I was eating it, and I'm eating it. And John Jefferson came. He said, "You know, you have 125 yards on 25 carries at halftime." And even then, I still didn't realize the significance of it. I wasn't even paying it no attention. And I said, "Oh, for real? Like, okay, oh, all right, okay." Because I knew we was at that time the score was still 1 point away from me. It was 1 point behind them. So I wasn't worried about that. I was more so worried about winning the ball game, and we're playing Missouri. And we went out, we went to playing, game went to flowing, things went to happening. And Jay say, "Man, you know you close to a record." He came to me in the sideline. He said, "You know you close to a record." So I was like, "For real?" He said, "Yeah, you think you're close to the Big 8 record."
Okay.
So I said, "Oh, for real?" And he said, "Yeah." So then I said, "Oh," we went back out, and then all of a sudden they say we had surpassed the Big 8 record. And we're close. We can go for a national record. So at that time, Mason called a timeout. He called a timeout. He called everybody up. And he said, "Hey, listen, Tony's close to a record. Tony, do you want to go for it?" Before I can say yes, the whole team said yeah. And normally during the season, I would pull myself out if I had a certain amount of yards and
Sure.
let some of the other guys play.
Sure.
And on this one, the other running back said, "We don't want to go in and finish it."
And the record was fresh on their minds because Marshall
Yes.
Faulk had just said
I
it.
just said it, the
Yeah.
first game of the season. And I was getting ready to break it the last game of the season.
San Diego State, for folks that don't remember Faulk
Yes.
as a Colt or a Ram.
Yes.
He was a big-time San Diego State Aztec.
Yes. And man, we were going. So when we got close to it, Mace called Coach Rule over, and he said, "Listen, do not throw another pass. Don't throw another pass." And crazy as it was, Hillary threw another pass. Mace called a timeout, went hammock on Coach Rule. "If you throw another one, I guarantee you, I'll fire you right here on the spot. Do not throw another pass." Everything is hanging off. So we're getting ready to go back to the line, and Perez goes to the line and say, "Hey, we coming this way." He's telling the Missouri guys,
Yeah.
"Hey, we coming that way." So I'm like, I'm hearing this. I'm like, he's actually telling the guy where we're going. Is he kidding me? So we go. He blows the hole open. We go through it. So after I get up, I come back to him. Now you got to understand, I averaged only 5 yards per carry. The longest gain I think I had in that was like 20 yards. So when you really look at that, it's a banging. That means you're banging each play.
58 times. I mean, nowadays, that
Yeah.
would be 3 times the workload of a lead back.
Correct. And so as we're going, I'm looking like, man, these guys on the front, they got into this thing with Perez. "Hey, we coming this way." I'm like, "You guys are telling these guys this?" They said, "Yeah, because they can't stop us anyway." So I said, "All right, cool." Now I told him, I said, "Now if I get hit, y'all gonna have some problems with me. I'm just telling you." Right? I said, "No, you great." So we're going, and I can remember it clear as day. It was the last play, and both the tackles, Chris and Loneker, was saying, "I want it to come my way." No, I want it to come my way. Because we know we was close, and if they blow it open, we can get it on this play. So those two guys in the huddle arguing, Hillary looking at him like they're crazy. And I'm saying, hey, man, just call the play. Let's go.
Right.
Whatever we're going to call, let's go. So we go, and it was a toss sweep because we toss sweep left, toss sweep right, and it was a toss sweep. And as we ran the toss sweep to the left, we went. And they said it went crazy on the scoreboard. We had just set the record. And as I kneeled down because I got tackled, and I kneeled down and I slammed the ball down.
Boom.
And when I slammed that ball down, to me, it meant that we have arrived.
Yes.
At the University of Kansas. We have arrived to the pinnacle of where we needed to be in order to get this thing moving in the direction that it has to go. At that point, I left out as a winner. And I left out with a unit of guys that meant everything to me. Even now in this day and era, the guys that you speak to as friends are the guys that you went to war with.
Totally.
And those are my college guys that I went to war with, that we fought, battled, even when we thought things were not going in the direction that we thought they was going. We didn't know we was planting the seed for the generations to come. We was looking at the Devin Neals and the Highshaw. We was looking at these guys.
Sure.
This is what was being paid, so these guys can have an opportunity.
And that's so well said. And in this case, the guys you're referencing would be 3 decades later, but
Yes.
specifically in the 90s, you brought the program to the doorstep of what would
Correct.
be multiple Aloha Bowl appearances under Coach Mason over the next 4 seasons. And while you didn't get a chance to taste that yourself, you had to take pride in knowing all your hard work got them on the precipice of that. And that's really what you said at the beginning of the interview.
Yes.
Leaving South Florida, you came to Kansas to pull them from the depths of college football oblivion, get them to the postseason. Your work laid the groundwork for them.
And it reminds me, that always remind me of the speech that Martin Luther King gave. And he said, I may not make it to the promised land with you. And I always looked at that just like that. I might not make it to multiple bowls with you, but I want to know that I stand in the paint to kick it off for you.
Yeah.
And it meant everything, because when I look at these guys at the bowl game, and the first bowl game I went to was just recently. That was the first bowl game that I ever attended at the University of Kansas.
We were on the stage together in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes.
The Guaranteed Rate Bowl.
That was the first bowl game that I had ever been to associated with the University of Kansas. So going there that day meant the world to me. I was not going to let anything stop me just from that, because it felt like I was playing that day when I watched that.
And let me tell you, we had a pep rally with probably 1,000 Jayhawks in this cool venue in downtown Phoenix. And this man's energy on stage, that place was lit. It was awesome.
You gotta embrace and love something that you laid the groundwork for. And that's why when I came back that one time and I spoke and I told these guys, you gotta lay this brick by brick. And when I'm in the locker room, I hear some of the guys saying, hey man, hey coach, brick by brick. Tony saying, because he knew when I gave that speech, that's what I told him. You got to leave your foundation. You got to lay the groundwork here for whatever you're going to do in life. Because when they talk about your university, you want them to speak about you. So that's what and that's when I always say brick by brick to those guys, and they say it back to me. That's what it means.
And brick by brick, you almost kind of figuratively slam the brick down when you put the ball down after breaking the record. And I know you told the media a couple of years ago on the weekend when you went up in the Ring of Honor that whenever you come back to Lawrence and you're on the sideline near that spot on the field, it all comes rushing back to you. Describe that spot on the field so we can look for it for Jayhawk fans heading to the booth.
That on the visitor side at the 25-yard line, because that's where it all, as you say, the brick was laid, the foundation for generations to come will understand that at that mark, whether it's the new stadium or the old stadium, but on that mark, the University of Kansas can say that, guess what? It was 2 NCAA records set at this spot. But not only that, it was the groundwork for this generation, not knowing how far you could see it would go, but knowing that day the brick was laid.
So good. And really 3 records when you add in you and Chip's joint record.
Correct.
And I say that to segue back to him because, again, talking about
He's
some
my
of the
guy.
untold stories, really good quarterback.
That's my guy.
You were Big 8 Player of the Year.
Yes.
He wound up being Big 8 first team All Big 12 quarterback by the end
Yes.
of his career. Awesome guy, great Jayhawk ambassador. He's been with the alumni
Yes.
board and all
Yes.
that in the previous years. But for folks, again, that are a little bit younger, speak to his skill set. And then in a second, I'll talk about your friendship and some of the shenanigans you got into.
I mean, the skill set, if for those, he would be in this, if you're looking at quarterbacks in this, because he always reminded me of guys like Charles Thompson, which was old, Jamel Holloway. He had that type of style to me.
Okay.
Because we were running downhill, toss, sweep. Chip was fast. He was a fast, elusive quarterback.
Yeah.
He would, if I was looking at Aaron Rodgers, that's what he puts me in the mind of an Aaron Rodgers type.
Okay.
And speaking like that, because he was in a time in an era that was running, where we ran the football. So his skill set really couldn't be shown because we was running the football. The Big 8 conference, and I tell people now, the Big 8 conference was the SEC of now. We were the conference where all the national championships were coming out of. So don't ever underestimate how powerful the Big 8 conference was.
Sure.
We were that conference. When you talk about national championships, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Colorado, that's where the national championships were coming out of.
Man, I'm thinking about the running backs that came
Yes.
out of the league.
Yes.
You know, from the programs you mentioned, like OU and
Correct.
Nebraska, but I mean, that same era, you had Barry Sanders, Thurman Thomas from Oklahoma State.
And-
I mean, so many great ones.
And me and Barry to this day still talks.
Do you?
Yeah, I had an opportunity, man. When we played him down in Stillwater, that was my first time meeting him. And I remember after I met him that day, Oklahoma State released their highlight tape for that year. And during my spring of that following season, every morning that I got up, I had got the highlight tape. I had Coach Adams to get me that highlight tape. And I played it every morning that I woke up.
Really?
I played it so much that my roommate at the time was Maurice Hooks. I remember one day he hit it because he said, I don't want to hear that Whitney Houston song no more.
What was the song?
A Moment in Time.
Okay.
A Moment in Time.
Your highlights and his highlights?
No, that was just his.
Just his. And that was the motivator. Because,
yes,
again,
yes.
for you young pups,
yes,
I think the comp for Tony Sands' size, style, all of that dynamic play,
yes,
kind of Barry Sanders.
Yes. And that's, because I looked up to him and he was a junior because he left out early. He was a junior and I was a freshman. And to be able to say that you're on the same stage with Barry Sanders and be able to go play for play with him. We was going play for play with them.
Yeah.
I had 125 at half and he had 115. And so to say that, hey, at one point in a game at a half, I had more yards than the great Barry Sanders. And to say that we still have a relationship because of us playing in the Big 8 conference mean the world to me. Every time we see each other, we talk about football, but we just talk about, how we were looked at as being small and playing in a big conference like the Big 8 conference.
Small in heights, but mighty in performance and contribution, legendary in proportions.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to quickly tell one last story on your teammates, and then we'll take a break. I want to close by talking about Glenn Mason and our 2-minute drill. But again, you and Chip, like you had a connection on the field. The pitch options were almost unstoppable in certain games between you guys because you were both so dynamic. But what's fun about your chemistry on the field is you had a really great bond off of it that sometimes literally spilled over, as in water spilling over. Take me back to the Jayhawk Towers in the 80s and 90s.
Listen, man, the Jayhawk Towers. And that's what really, another thing that brought me to the University of Kansas. I had went to a lot of schools and I just didn't like the dorms. I came from a household, like I told you, 15, 16, 3-bedroom house. So when I got a chance to see that, man, I could have my own bedroom. Oh my goodness, own living room. Oh, this is awesome. I went to Florida State. Then Burt Reynolds Hall was just new at that time. And they were talking about that was the biggest thing going in college football. And I came to the University of Kansas. Jayhawk Towers was amazing. And when that sold me. Hey, I got everything here.
Yeah.
And when Hillary came in, I was already a prankster with a couple other guys. Donahoe and all of them, we were prankster. But I say, okay, I'm gonna keep this legacy going with every quarterback that come in. And Hillary was that one. So I started the pranks with him because I just carried it over. And I remember one time I'm walking up. I had just come from study hall with the lady named Kathleen Gabriel. We had to go to study hall at the time. And I'm walking, not paying no attention now. And mind you, it was cold. It was cold. Not realizing I had to walk in Jayhawk Towers. And if you know with Jayhawk Towers, the living room window sits where you walk in at.
Okay.
And I wasn't paying no attention. I'm walking, and all of a sudden, somebody had called me. So I think they set it up where it'll make me stop right there in that walkway. And when I stopped, I heard laughter, but in the time when I looked up to see the laughter, the water went to coming down, and they threw a bucket of water on me. And I'm saying, okay, all right. So now I got to turn up my pranks a little bit more. So these were the kind of relationships that I had with my guys on my team. And because I think if you have those type of relationships, when you're on the field, you battle for each other. And it makes, even now, we still talk to each other because, he lives in South Florida. I'm on the East Coast. He's on the West Coast.
How about that? The only thing that could cool off the sweet feet of Tuxedo Tony Sands was a bucket of cold water.
Cold water by my quarterback at that.
Yes.
By my quarterback.
I love it. So good.
Yes.
So good. Glenn Mason.
Yes.
You were a part of his first recruiting class. You told us some of the motivation coming from South Florida to try to put Kansas football back on the map. But it's one thing to fall in love with a university and the great dorms and all that stuff. It's another to believe that this is the right coach to entrust my future to. So what was it about his staff that convinced you of that early? And then what was the experience like playing for him, one of the great coaches in the history of our program?
You got to, when Mace came down the first time to recruit me, he was coming in from Kent State. And mind you, I went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School, one of the premier high schools in the country. We were winning. And I felt at that time, I'm like, I was ducking him. I was ducking Mace in the hallways because I didn't want to go to Kent State. I felt like what I had accomplished in the state of Florida, I was the all-time leading rusher in Broward County history. And when they talk about South Florida, that's a high feat with all the greats to come through. So I was ducking him and dodging him. Now, mind you, one time Coach Smith called me. He said, "Hey, I need you to come down to the office. Coach Mason is here." So I'm walking. I'm like, man, I just told him I don't want to go to Kent State. I'm pouncing. So when I get there, he said, "Hey." I said, "What's up, Coach?" I talked to him, still being polite. He said, "Hey, listen, I took a new job." Because I saw him in KU stuff. Now, he wasn't in Kent stuff. So I said, "Oh, for real?" He said, "Yeah, I took a job at the University of Kansas. And me and my staff feel like you can help us go in there to change that program around." So mind you, I'm looking at, now I'd seen the University of Kansas, but I was like, that's like I've been seeing them get beat by Oklahoma and Nebraska 70-something to nothing. I don't know. I don't know if I want to go and be a part of that. But then I thought about it and I said, okay, there's two ways to look at this. You can either say, I can go and look at Florida State while I was being recruited, Pitt, and I can go to these programs and I can be one of the guys to come through. Or I can go to this program and be one of the greatest guys to come through.
Yep.
And I said, you know what? I like that greatest guy better than one of the guys. So I came up on the visit, Mace, and Coach Smith told me, he said, I don't want him to commit until he called me in your office. So as we're up, because I went to Florida State, I wanted to go to Florida State. That was my dream school. But Coach Bowden, good guy, said that they didn't have a scholarship. So I said, all right, cool. I wasn't going to walk on because I felt I played enough and my athletic ability enough wanted me a scholarship. And as I got here, I went to the dorms, and I said it earlier, the dorms, I loved them.
Mm-hmm.
Loved the atmosphere, loved the environment. And I said at that time, I told Coach Mason, I said, I want to come here. I want to prove to the world that I can play at this level. Because everybody was down, you can't play at the big time level. And I wanted to commit to him because he committed to me. And it meant the world to me to give him everything because he gave me everything. He gave me an opportunity to play at the major college level. So every day that I went out on the field, I wanted to make him proud because he didn't have to give me that opportunity because he could have either said, like the world said, you couldn't make it, you wouldn't be tough enough, you wouldn't last. But he believed in it. And with him believing in me, I believed in him. And I wanted to lay down and die for him.
Wow.
And I was literally in that game willing to lay down and die for him to make him a winner also.
So the belief he instilled in you
Yes.
is a big part of his fantastic leadership. What else about Mason the coach? We heard about Mason the recruiter. What
He-
set him apart as a game day guy?
Listen, he was tough. I'm going to be honest with you. You had to, in order to play for Coach Mason, and you got to understand Mace came up under Woody Hayes.
Sure.
So in order to play for him, you had to be tough. He didn't care about the athletic ability. He cared about how tough you were.
Mm.
Were you willing to lay it down? And some guys didn't last. I'm going to be honest. Because they just couldn't stand the pressure that he was putting on them. But he knew, I got to put this pressure on you if we plan to win in this conference. If we plan to beat the Nebraskas, if we plan to beat the Oklahomas, if we plan to beat them, this is what I got to do to you. And he was not only that, but he was a father figure to me.
Wow.
You know, when I traveled to Kansas, I had no family up here, nothing. And he was a father figure in every sense of the word. When I say, I remember me and my wife was down in Kansas City one time, I was telling this quick, and my kids were at the university, they was at the daycare. So mind you, I put it, and not knowing I'm just doing it, I put him as next to kin because we had no kin here. And literally, they called over to the athletic department and said, hey, you got to come pick up Tony kids. We couldn't get in touch with him. So he was going to send the secretary. They say, no, the secretary can't come. You got to come because you're the next of kin on the paperwork. So he goes, mind you, now this is a university. This is one of the biggest positions on the university, and you got to go to a nursery to pick up 2 kids. So when I get back, he said, where you been? I've been looking for you at school, looking for you, the kids. Mind you, the kids was in his office playing. So I'm looking like, you know what? So that's when you look at that, that's why I say he was a father figure to me, father figure, grandfather to my children. Like I said, he was a guy that you want to play for. You have, if he bought you in, he bought in tough guys.
Man.
That what it took for here.
They always say football is all about family.
Yes.
And in now 8 episodes of Hanni and the Hawks, we learned in episode 1 that Daryl Stuckey babysat for Aqib Talib the night we won the Orange Bowl. And in episode 8, we learned that Glenn Mason on one particular afternoon pitched in and helped out with Tony Sansky.
Yes.
I love it. That's so good. It's all about family, baby.
That's it. Jayhawk family, Jayhawk Nation.
Well, speaking of family, we'll close with our 2-minute drill here. Quick hitters, fun stuff. You've referenced a couple of times, a big part of your family is your uncle, the playmaker, Michael Irvin, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys. What was that relationship like growing up, and how much of your swagger did you get from playmaker?
Pretty much all of it. I always wanted to mimic him. We grew up more or less like brothers than uncle and nephew because we're only 2 years apart.
I figured.
Yeah, we're only 2 years apart. My mom, as a matter of fact, my mom was coming home with my older sister when my grandmother was going to the hospital to have Mike.
Wow.
So we grew up like brothers, and we did everything together. Even to this day, you used to catch us a lot at the Super Bowls together. We still to this day, his swag, his drive to be great was instilled in me also.
Really good. Flo Rida is also a close friend of yours. I think our audience probably knows that if they were at Late Night in the Fog back in 2023. That was the same weekend you went up in the Ring of Honor. And give me the backstory here, because I've seen Flo Rida perform at Major League Baseball stadiums. He was at Kauffman last summer, and he puts on a heck of a show. I didn't realize he thought he was performing at KU's baseball stadium, and you had to set him straight that, no, you're actually coming to the greatest basketball arena in the world.
Yes, I called him. I said, you performing at Late Night, right? He said, yeah, I got to do it for the baseball. I'm doing so. I said, no, bro, you're doing it for basketball. That's Late Night. That's one of the biggest things that we kick off basketball season with, Late Night. He said, for real? Oh, cool. He said, you go? I said, yeah, I'm going in. I said, I'm going in the Ring of Honor that day. The next day, he said, he said, listen, when we land, they got us in the locker room. When we land, you're coming to the back. So I go to the back, we're talking, and he said, man, listen, I know how we're going to wow the crowd. He said, I'm going to have you introduce me on the song, Welcome to My House. And I told him, I said, yeah, because it's only fitting right that I welcome you to my house.
My house.
And man, listen, It was exciting. We went out in the crowd. It was crazy. He called me out there. He said, man, I enjoyed that. He said,
Yeah.
he said, to be able to be there. That's why when I tell people, man, everything around me going in was perfect.
Yeah.
Same number, same inductee. One of my tight buddies, the one I introduced him, one of the hottest pop artists in the country. I get the chance to introduce Flo Rida to my house.
To my house. Welcome to my house.
Yes.
So good. So good. Okay. I think in talking to you for the last 40, 45 minutes,
Yes.
I'm hearing a little bit of a Baptist preacher. I'm hearing a little bit of hype man. You've got so much energy. So the question is, heck, you could be a rapper like Flo Rida. Had you not chosen a life of football and family and all that, you got such a presence about you. What would be the other calling? Because clearly you could host your own show. You could preach on Sundays. What would be the other calling had football not been your first love?
Now, sometimes I used to wonder that. Like, if I wasn't given the opportunity to play this great game, what would I have done? I was always a prankster, so I probably would have been a comedian.
A comedian.
Kicking jokes, kicking around, pulling pranks. Like in this day and era, I'll probably been all over TikTok if we had it as somebody that did a lot of the pranks like they do now. So I would probably say my number one passion, though, I probably would have been a truck driver.
Okay.
And that's hard to believe. I remember my mom kept me back because one time the teacher said he's not ready because all I wanted to do was drive trucks. I would make trucking sounds, like I'm shifting gears when I'm going down the hall. I wanted to be a truck driver because my dad was a truck driver. He was a Vietnam veteran, but he drove trucks. So a truck driver probably would have been in my calling because coming from and that's why I tell people the beauty about sports, man.
Yeah.
It brings out the best in you. And when my dad introduced me and Mike to football, it changed our lives.
Man. A truck driver, seeing the world, but telling great jokes.
Telling great jokes on it. Because you can do that now. They're doing that on TikTok now. They tell jokes, and truckers have their own lane on TikTok. So I would have been cracking jokes on the CB, breaker 19, cracking jokes, and still getting that 18-wheeler going down the highway.
And we'll close it down on the 2-minute drill and bring it full circle. You're such a great ambassador for your alma mater. You're such a great ambassador for KU football. Heck, you were on the sidelines when we won at UCF earlier this season.
Yes.
Give me your thoughts on modern-day Kansas football, the new booth that you're in town to see this weekend, and just how proud you are with how far we've come.
Oh, man, just to look at just riding down that hill and seeing that stadium and seeing where we've come from, walking in, looking at the locker room, looking at the front entrance of the building, man, it's amazing. And this generation, I always tell them, appreciate what you have. Because it's guys that went before you had less. So I don't want to hear that you can't get the job done. We're giving you everything, every opportunity to get the job done. We as the past players, I say we as past players, you guys owe that to us. You owed it to us that you lay down everything for KU, man, because this is everybody put work in for these guys to play in this beautiful stadium. So they owe it back to us each and every time that they go out there, that they're going to give everything that they have. They're willing to leave it on the line. They're willing to walk out of there or either fall out of there. But make sure that when they leave out of there, they've given everything.
Amen. Preach it, my man. I love it. I would run through a wall for you right now. I would run through a wall, my friend. I always get fired up when I talk with Tony Sands. I hope you got fired up.
Yes.
Listen to this today. Thank you, my friend. It's so good to see you.
My pleasure.
Welcome back to your home, your second home.
Yes.
And enjoy seeing your name.
No, this is second now. I know I'm from South Florida.
Yeah.
I call this first home.
How about that? Well, you always have a seat in our house here at Kansas Nation.
Yes.
And thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
The legend Tuxedo Tony Sands right here on Hanni and the Hawks. Thanks for joining us on Kansas Nation.